On Saturday night, two of the bright young stars in this league, two young, great, athletic signal callers, Anthony Richardson, Justin Fields. We're both on the sidelines. But still, they played a game in Indianapolis. I saw Lucas Oil Stadium. There were people in Bears uniforms and Colts uniforms. There was a lot of cool stuff going on. And as a matter of fact, this entire week, the Chicago Bears were in Indianapolis training with the Colts. We're going to be talking about it here in just a matter of moments because I am happy to be joined with the Sick Podcast, the Anvil Show. We got a lot to get to. So, Sammy, let's just go ahead and get started.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. It's gonna be sick.
It is Saturday night, and you know what that means? There was a preseason game, and to help us break down what we saw this evening from the Sick Podcast, the Anvil Show, we've got Pat, we've got Clyde. They're joining us, and I am so happy to be talking about this great, I guess, I don't think it's a rival, but when they showed the Super Bowl banner from the 2006 season, I got to admit, I was scared. But I feel better now being in your presence, gentlemen. How are you doing this evening?
Good, Adam. Yourself?
I am doing
Oh, I'm
well,
doing
Adam.
really love to hear it. I know that both of you, you guys have been killing it with the coverage from the Colts camp. A lot of great interviews with Colts players, with luminaries, coaches. You've just been killing it, and I got to say that I'm impressed. I know that one of you uploaded some files the other day and said Adam owes us big time. That's absolutely the case. You were out there you're doing all the legwork for me. And so, Clyde, I'll ask you, how much did you get out this week? Were you able to see practices and just getting some of your early impressions about what you've seen from the Colts so far this training camp?
So I'll say, Adam, this week I did not get to get out because Pat did that, but I've been out in the first couple weeks. And honestly, the buzz is just about Anthony Richardson, right? So that's what everybody cares about. And honestly, being a Colts fan as long as I have, I've never been more excited for a single player, just the athlete that he is. His capabilities seem to be unreachable. Honestly, you just don't know what he's going to become. So just watching him progress and seeing each day him getting better has been super exciting.
I'm sitting here biting my lip because there's a lot of fellow Bears fans here. You're talking about we've never seen a quarterback this excited. You had Peyton Manning for 20 years, and then you had Andrew Luck. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you had to start Curtis Painter for a season. Curtis Painter would have been one of the best Bears quarterbacks of all time, and you guys just dismiss him like he's nothing. Oh, we've been so quarterback starved. We had to start Jacoby Brissett for a season. I'm upset. Okay, you're officially on my list. But Pat, I'll ask you. You got to get out to practice this week. What was it like? Honestly, when you go to the training camp practices, they get a little mundane. These guys get sick of playing their own teammates. What was it like seeing them taking on the Chicago Bears this week? What were your impressions from camp?
Well, the first day I was right in the thick of action. And from both sides, there was a lot of speed, a lot of energy. Everybody, on both sides really looked like they was having fun. One side would win a snap, then the other side would win. So I couldn't say that one team was dominant over the other, because they traded punches back and forth really, really well. Um, but to go with what Clyde's saying, I was leaving camp, and Anthony Richardson was still on the field, still signing autographs. And there was damn near 80% of the people that was at camp that day mobbing, trying to get to this young man. And the only thing I could think is, damn, there's a new sheriff in town. And
It's true.
he's really taking this role serious. He's really doing his work. He's showing it on the field. Even at camp, he's gotten better every day that I've seen him. But if you watch him during camp, he gets better as the day goes by. So I'm really excited for this young man just to really get his feet wet and really get going. with this new career of his. Really am.
I had the opportunity to interview Anthony Richardson on NFL Total Access prior to the draft, and I came away thinking that this was one of the nicer people that I've been able to interact with. Just like the stuff that anytime like you interview somebody when they're on camera, they typically you'll see their best side. Like they've been coached for this stuff, but it was really fun to watch him in the pre-production because we did it before the show, so it wasn't live. And just watching the way that he interacted with the crew, with the production company that was down there, like he offered like a lot. Like, listen, a lot of these times players don't want to deal with anything, and they're like, I want to get out of here as quickly as possible. And Anthony was like, you know what? He's like, I don't like this background. He's like, can we go try it over at the gazebo? Like he's trying to find the best shot. Like he's doing the producer's job, or not doing a job, but like was really like, let's try the gazebo. Let's see how he didn't like the look inside because he didn't like the Marriott wall art that was behind him. And I was impressed, and I do remember thinking like obviously the Bears are set at quarterback, but I was an instant fan, and I go, I hope he goes to a team that I can sort of root for him. Like I don't want him to go to Green Bay or anything like that, something crazy. So I'm glad he's with the Indianapolis Colts. What is the he's obviously going to be the starter, and I think it was the right move. Who are going to be the guys who stand out? Like who's going to help him out? If Jonathan Taylor's not able to go, who are the Colts guys who are going to be able to help him out?
Get him, Clyde.
All right, so definitely it's going to be Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce last year, 41 catches, 593 yards, and a couple TDs. But that was with a Matt Ryan that was pretty immobile. And no shots at Matt. It's just Matt is not what Anthony Richardson is. So if you've already seen, doing training camp and, just during the offseason, they've been working together and they've had some big plays. Now, I say that, and then last week, he had the big pass to Alec, and Alec dropped it. But
it's training camp, yes.
Right. It's that type of situation that I'm excited for because Alec Pierce is honestly, he has to work on his route running, but, one-on-one, just give me a chance. He's the guy that's going to make a lot of big plays. And I think Michael Pittman, too, will show his value because I've always thought Michael Pittman to be a true, just over-the-middle type, strong possession receiver. And now you're going to have a consistent quarterback, just able to fire the ball in there and move the chains a lot more. And McKenzie looks pretty incredible as well. So really it's going to be the receiving core if we do not have Jonathan Taylor in week 1 or beyond. And so I really think they'll just lean on each other. So I'm really excited about the core that everybody's kind of critiqued pretty heavily. They say Chris Ballard is not a receiver type GM, but I think if you give him a little time and give him the right quarterback, we'll see. So I really think those are the guys.
See,
Pat, who would you think oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to go on, but if you want to lead into the question, I'll shut up.
No, please. I want to hear your answer. What do you got? Hit me.
Well, for me, it's more Josh Downs. Pierce and Pittman and McKenzie's going to do what they do. But a young rookie quarterback, a young rookie slot receiver, and Downs, and them two's connection already is massive. And part of the scouting reports that I read on Anthony Richardson is that his short game lacked consistency. It lacked just about every aspect of it. But watching him in camp, watching him in the first preseason game, he's really starting to dial that in. And his short passing game is going to be to Downs. That's going to be his relief. If he's not reading fast enough, he's always got Downs right there. So evidently the coaches are already coaching him to hit that middle, to hit those short 10, 15-yard passes and not rely on that 80-yard bomb that he can do flat-footed. So I see Downs and McKenzie really being the ones that let him shine consistently. The big plays, Pierce, Pittman, they're going to be there. They got great separations. They can damn sure catch the ball. But to make him shine, it's going to be that short fieldage. And Downs and McKenzie is going to do that for him.
Clyde, let me ask you this. Who would have the edge at running the football if Jonathan Taylor misses some significant amount of time?
So I'll say this, Adam. Honestly, if we've been trying to figure that out ourselves, we got a bunch of kids on the roster. But I honestly think our third round pick, I believe, Evan Hull, jumps to the top. And I think he jumps to the top, honestly, because he's like a Swiss Army knife. And I think he'll
Yeah.
kind of maybe, I'm not going to go too crazy, but he puts me in the mind of like, when people are like, who's this Austin Eckler guy? Like, I feel like Evan Hull this year, if he has to, he might have that, who is this Austin Eckler moment? And, he probably won't run for, 12, 1,300 yards. But what I'm saying, he'll probably, if he gets all the snaps, he might get 1,000, he might get 500, receiving, and he'd be like, wow, this is a very, very good utility player. That's what he did in Northwestern. And that's his forte. Coming out the backfield, give me the ball in open space on quick screens and, little quick hitch routes that I can run against, linebackers and give me a chance. And that's who I like, honestly, especially with Zach Moss breaking his arm. So that's a 6-week or beyond thing. So really right now, I think it's Evan Hull and Kenyon Drake. I think right now he's like 5th. But I mean, Kenyon Drake is, 8 or 9 year pro. So you cannot sleep on that. So we'll just see. But right now, I'm leaning towards Evan Hull, Adam.
Pat, would you agree with that?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, Evan, he's what's the word I'm looking for? An undiscovered talent. Kid's pretty good. Now, I do believe he needs that extra push from our line if you're going to send him up the middle. He doesn't have the big shoulders, the big legs like Jonathan Taylor, to finish getting through those blockers. But if you give him a little bit of space, he's got some speed. He's got some decent eyes. He can shook and move.
He is. It's funny because you say undiscovered, but of course our audience, a lot of which are Northwestern fans, or at least Big 12, Big 10 fans, who saw him play for the Wildcats, huge fans. And so I had been purporting him in fantasy football for those purposes. That has been the guy that has been my default. So I'm glad that you two were able to back me up. So when I sit there on Monday on NFL Fantasy Live, I'm talking about Evan Hall, be like, I'm coming from a position of knowledge. It's not just me; it's the people who are on the ground in Indianapolis who are seeing this. Now, I do want to turn our attention a little bit to the Chicago Bears. I'm curious to get your thoughts. Now, obviously, Justin Fields did not play on Saturday night, but that's by design. He's out there practicing on Wednesday and Thursday, which ends up being like a preseason game. Since you were there, what were your impressions on Justin Fields, and what do you think about his progress heading into year 3, especially with DJ Moore out there for him?
He looked good. He looked damn good. I won't take nothing away from him. And even Colts fans were yelling, wanting his autograph. Now they didn't really go around autographing at camp, but when somebody called his name, he stopped or waved at him, gave him that courtesy. And to me, being a fan myself, I appreciate that out of players when they acknowledge their fans. So to me, that's a character thing. But talent wise, yeah, he's putting it all together. Absolutely. And now you got Moore that can grab anything that's thrown in his vicinity. Yeah, he's really going to shine. Now, will he get the running yards that he did last year? No, but he shouldn't, because now he's getting better talent to throw to. So he shouldn't have to rely on his legs as much. So as far as a fantasy quarterback, and that's stuck in my head because you brought it up.
Right.
Yeah, he's still actually the top 5 if you ask me, but he's not going to get the running yards that he did last year. Last year he would burn people up with just the run yards on fantasy points. But yeah, he
had 11.
Yeah, he looked really good at camp, and even though he was in hostile territory, he still waved to fans. He was still smiling, having a good time.
There's no beef with the Colts. I mean, I was making a joke about the Super Bowl, but that's so long ago. People barely remember it. Like, people don't do we have a beef? Like, do you think Patriot fans hate us for beating them in the Super Bowl like 40 years ago?
No.
No. Everybody's we're over that by now. But Clyde, what do you think? Like, I know. Yeah, what do you got?
No, I was gonna say, I will say this. So the game is just ending, and I'm hoping that no crazy reports come out, because almost 4 years to the day when the Bears were in the preseason game and Andrew Luck just magically retires. So you say we don't have beef with the Bears?
That wasn't
maybe
us.
you
That
guys
wasn't our fault.
you might a little be bad omen there,
That wasn't
Adam.
on us.
We better not see Anthony Richardson deciding to walk away
He
from the game.
retired. He's like, I've had enough. It's been a great career. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for having me.
No, just kidding.
I will
Just kidding.
stop watching this game if that happens.
Oh my
I'm
God.
done. I can't
That's
go through
hilarious.
another 6 years with no quarterback.
Oh man.
Oh, you're fine. 6 years. Stop it. Try 60. My dad to live so long without seeing quality. That's actually not the case because we had a little bit of a discussion with some of the Vikings fans who were like, "Oh, Kirk Cousins would be your greatest." I'm like, Jim McMahon still exists. Like I know he
Yeah.
didn't put up prolific numbers that you see from modern day quarterbacks, but the NFL was much different in '85. Nobody outside of Dan Marino was throwing for 4,000 yards, so it was a different game. I think of Jim McMahon. Like, go look up his. I know this is not what you want to talk about, but you go look up his college numbers, and you're like, he was one of the most prolific. Like, if he had gone to any other team, like if he had gone to the Chargers or something like that, he probably would have retired with Dan Marino-esque numbers throwing the football. But he went to the Bears. He was asked to do a different thing because the Bears were known for their defense. And I want to ask you, Pat, since you were there, how is the Bears' defense looking? Now, obviously, that was the big part of the struggle last season, inability to get to the quarterback, not creating turnovers. Did you see a good energy from the Bears' defense during those combined practices?
I did. I did see, and picking up Yannick was a big plus for you guys. Why we didn't re-sign him, I'm not sure, but he is a massive talent. I know everybody says he's not the run stop, but he can. But you got an end like that that's got the speed that he does. You want him after that quarterback disrupting that backfield. You want your other people taking on those runners if it gets to that point. So picking up Yannick was an absolute monster for you guys. But your defense looked good. The only thing that I'm going to critique kind of sideways is watching the game today. I seen the typical Matt Eberflus's cover 2. It's loose. You going to give me 10, 15 yards, I'm going to take it every time. And every team did that. And that was one of the biggest gripes that I had about his defensive play calling. And I seen it again today. So it has its moments in games, but when he was our defensive coordinator, he stayed at it too long and we would get picked apart in the backfield. So
Yeah.
and I seen that again today on this matchup. Now, was that him calling it or was that him leading the call for it? I don't know. But it's something for Bears fans to watch
It's a
out
philosophy.
for sure.
It's a philosophy. It's a philosophy for sure. And I believe that's one of the reasons why Ryan Poles has gone out there and invested so much in the defensive secondary. Going back to last season, they passed on George Pickens because they wanted to go out and get Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon. This season, they brought in Tyreek Stevenson. And those guys, of course, go along with Jalen Johnson. So you do put a lot of pressure on a defensive secondary, but we've invested, everybody who's starting back there is a first or second round pick outside of Eddie Jackson, who was only a fourth round pick because he was coming off an injury from Alabama. So I think that Ryan Poles understands the philosophy of this defense. And you know what? I understand where you're coming from too, that it can be maddening to watch these bend but don't break defenses but I think in the modern NFL with the rules geared the way that they are, like it's almost inevitable. Like you're going to give up some yards. But I will say this, and I know that, and forgive me, I don't know how many starters were playing for the Colts defense. I kind of liked the Colts defense. I like the guy who was what was he, number 41 with the long hair. I thought he was kind of a.
Yeah.
I think
we call him Fluffy Butt because his
we do
hair's
not
all.
call him that.
Yes, we do, and you know it.
No, we don't.
only Pat. Clyde is not. No, Clyde is like they're not called. Nobody's ever called him that.
We are live here. We do not do that.
No.
Clyde's too cool, so just forget
That's
about
not
that.
cool for anybody. That guy can ball. I was impressed with the Colts defense. I thought that, whether they're first teamers or second teamers or whatever they were, it looks like, and again, this is through a credit to the Chris Ballard organization. is that it looks like they've built some pretty decent depth. And even without DeForest Buckner and some of the big names out there, they still look pretty competent. And again, I know everybody, well, that's preseason, but still, you can tell if a guy can play or not. And the Colts looked like they had some playmakers on defense, so you had to be pretty pleased with the defensive performance they had going.
Yeah, I would say that I was. The key that we have to watch, going from the Gus Bradley system was really like how was Kenny Moore going to fit? And last year was a struggle for Kenny Moore. But I think that was like some contractual things. Maybe he wasn't happy as well. But, the talks were, hey, he might leave and end up in Eberflus's defense. But luckily we kept him. So I'm really anxious to see how we kind of, use that nickel again. Because to me, he's the veteran of our defense. He's been on the squad 7 years, so he's the tenured one. So he's a leader. But I really want to see if he really gets to play into the defense. And then he's really going to help the young corners because right now, Dallas Flowers on one side, and maybe one of the rookies, Brents or Rush, or maybe even Baker, who was like, we found him talking Chris Ballard finding gems. So we really don't know what's going to be on the back end outside of Kenny Moore. But he, to me, drives everything. He really does. So that's what I want to see how Gus can fit him in this year and make him like back to the Kenny Moore from 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, like, who is this nickel cornerback? This intercepting, Darren Waller with one hand and just crazy stuff. So interesting to see. Yeah.
So
Pat,
to wrap up here a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Nope. Go ahead. Go ahead.
If you had a point. No, please. I didn't want to.
No, I thought we had a little gap of time. My fault.
Oh, it's all good. Listen, we're just sitting here talking ball. That's all that we're doing.
Yeah, fact.
What do you think, Pat? I'll ask you this. I'll have you lead off with this one, and then Clyde, you can follow up. Brand new coaching staff coming in. Obviously, we saw Reggie Wayne being a holdover, which I love to see. I worked with him at the NFL Network. He is one of my favorite people, despite the fact that he was on that Super Bowl winning squad. He also roots for the St. Louis Cardinals. Things I would not normally be rooting for, but one of the a really good guy, and I'm glad that he's getting an opportunity to remain in Indianapolis and coach the wide receivers. But with a new coaching staff coming in there or being installed now, what are the expectations for the Colts this season? I think that, I was a little dismissive of them because I think a lot of times whenever I'm judging teams going into the season, it basically comes down to like how experienced and how good is your quarterback. And if Anthony Richardson can kind of progress and win some games, I think that the Colts could surprise some people. But what is the expectations, Pat? What do you have for the upcoming season?
The season or the coaching staff?
Both. I mean, like, what do you want to see out of the coaching staff? And does it matter? And do wins and losses even matter to you? Because I know, well, I will say this because last year, at some point, when it was established where Justin Fields looked like the quarterback of the future, you're like, I want to win games, but if we don't, we get a better draft pick. I'm not going to be too concerned about it. Or are you going, what are you looking for, coming into this upcoming season?
Honestly, Adam, we talked about this on a show several weeks ago, what our expectations were. And I just want to see growth. I want to see growth in all our young players. I want to see growth in our veteran players. Coming off of the last several seasons, we had crazy high expectations. We had a top 5 offensive line. Matt Ryan should have shined, like a diamond, but our offensive line did not allow that to happen. So I want to see that improve. I want to see Anthony Richardson continue to improve. I want to see Juju Brents improve. These are all our future stars. Do I want to win? Absolutely. I want to win all 17 games. And then the big one. But that's an expectation that is, beyond unfeasible. So what I really want to see is growth. I want to see him get better. I want to see him get more consistent. And the same way with our coaching staff. And we're seeing that right now already. So my hope meter is actually going up because with Frank Wright here, and Clyde's going to laugh at this statement because we make fun of it all the time. We could not run a damn screenplay to get 3 yards to save our lives. The entire time Frank Wright was here, we ran 3 here and got 60-something yards out of all 3 of them. Tonight, So that to me is growth in our coaching abilities. They're doing something that for the last 5 years we wasn't able to do. I love seeing stuff like that. Um, our young cornerbacks, they gotta pick up the pace, or we're gonna get Justin Fields could eat them apart. So to me, getting all these guys, we know we're not going to the Super Bowl this year. I agree with you. I do believe we're going to uh, shock some people by the end of the year, but we're not going to the Super Bowl. So I want to see continued growth. And if we have um, a 4-13 season like you predicted,
Come on, Adam.
Isn't
then
that that is the best case scenario for you? That's what you should want. I mean, like honestly, like that's what you should want. Imagine. Here's the thing. Imagine Anthony Richardson goes out there and has a season like Justin Fields did last year, and then you end up with the first overall pick, and then some team, like be it the Raiders, the Rams, or whomever, is like, we want to give you 35 draft picks for Caleb Williams, or whomever ends up being the top quarterback prospect coming into the draft. I assume it's going to be Caleb Williams. That's the best case scenario. Like what is the joy in being 8-9, and you're like, oh, we were competitive, and now we're not going to be able to pick. We're not going to get a bevy of picks for us. Like, I know it's the defeatist way of looking at it, but it's also an honest way of looking at it. Like, listen, if we didn't suck last year, if we didn't, like, it was terrible living through a lot of those games, especially losing to the Packers and the stupid Vikings, and especially the Lions. But if you would have, but like, at the end of the day, we ended up with DJ Moore. I feel like it was worth it. Like it was. I feel like Andy Dufresne. I was crawling through that sewer of caca, and I came out with DJ Moore, and like, I was worth it. Like, it wasn't a pleasant experience, but it was definitely worth it. That's what you should be. I'm doing you a favor, and it's not like I'm booking it. Like the NFL, believe it or not, is not scripted. I'm not booking the Colts to be 4-13, but it wouldn't be the worst case scenario for you, or at least being a top. I'm just saying.
And older people like us, we remember the Peyton Manning years. His first 3 years, he went 3-13.
Mm-hmm.
First year, first year, yeah.
First 3 years.
No, he went 13-3 year 2. Come on, Pat.
Yeah, they were good the second year.
All right.
They turned it around.
He's really
they got
all right. What kind of wagers are we putting on this?
They got Edgerrin James in that second year.
Yeah,
and they were really good.
So that's why I say it. To me, this year the record's not going to matter. If we are what you say we are, we're getting Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh, I don't want that to happen. No. Well, I need. How about?
But if not, we're making a run. So I'm good either way.
Well, the Steelers got Joey Porter Jr., so you guys might as well just get first dibs on Marvin Harrison Jr. But Clyde, I'll throw it to you. What are your expectations for the coming season with the Indianapolis Colts?
I'm gonna say accountability, and that starts from the top. So we get to talk to Chris Ballard every year, which is an honor, and we know his philosophy, right? He's not going to go out and spend a lot of money in free agency. He's not going to do any crazy big trades outside of DeForest Buckner. That was pretty big. But what I'm getting at is he believes in his team and how they draft. So now it's like, hey, we finally got a quarterback because they only had, Andrew for 1 year. So accountability to all that he's put into this team for 6 years. Are these guys ready? Can we start to win? And the thing that you kind of said, about what does 8-9 do for us, I think it gives us Colts fans, because we've been spoiled, you're right, 20 years of great quarterback play, and now this 6-year limbo period has been a struggle. So it gives us something to be hopeful for, even though it may not improve the team draft-wise. So it's kind of a weird feeling, right? Like, it's strange when you haven't been a loser. Like, I think we're fourth, in the last 20 years, we're like fourth overall wins, So it's like to come from being a top 5 franchise, basically, in wins to now being like somebody that they're writing off is a hard feeling. So you kind of want to start to get that churning again. But you're right. I still think that we're missing a piece or two, and having a bad season but good play from Anthony Richardson could still be positive come next April, depending on the draft. Because, oh, we're getting there. But my only thing, and we talk about this on the podcast a lot, is that's another year for Shaq Leonard. That's another year for Quentin Nelson.
Right.
And these are the guys that you're
Yeah,
like,
those guys
dang,
don't
they
want
just
to be
got here.
losing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So so they're 6 and 7 year players now. So it's like they want to start to experiencing that winning feeling as well. So it's a weird dynamic right now, Adam.
Just send them to some winning team like the Bears did last year. Where they just started trading off everybody just to ensure that you don't like. That's when you know, because obviously during the broadcast, the owner was on there. Irsay was on there, who I like. I like Irsay.
Yeah.
And is it Ken Venturi? He was a hoot. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I'm sure he just does the preseason games, but I enjoyed listening to him because like you could tell he coached 80 years ago, and he just it's just an old school, like it's like talking to like your family members who've been watching football forever. Like that's the way that they still see the game, and it's fun. It's fun. It is enlightening and it's fun. And so, but again, like those guys. But if there was ever a day where if Quentin Nelson gets traded and Shaq Leonard gets traded, you're like, oh boy, here comes the George Patton. We're the tank commanders. Similar to what the Bears did last year. But if they keep those guys, they probably think they're competitive and can make a run for it. I mean, Jacksonville came out of nowhere and made it to the playoffs last year. So never say never, especially in a division that seems to be as wide open as the AFC South. Now, I want to thank you guys for being here. Thanks for entertaining us here. I want to let everybody know that for those of us who are fans here from the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank, I hope you have this. I hope you enjoyed this opportunity to get a glimpse of what we got going on with the Sick Podcast Anvil, the Anvil Show. I'm sure there's some reason behind that, but whatever. It's a great way to gain insight with some of our other teams, and so I'm pleased to be joined by you this evening. I want to let everybody know again who's a Bears fan. We'll talk about Roschon Johnson, our quarterback battles. That'll be on Take It to the Rank this Tuesday. For you guys, Pat, what do you got coming up with your show in the coming days?
Well, I'll let Clyde answer that one.
Clyde, take it away. Sorry.
Clyde's our mastermind here.
Well, see, so honestly, in the next few days, we'll be breaking down, because we didn't get to do it last week. We'll talk about Anthony Richardson in the preseason game. We'll talk about, optimism going into the third game. Will they get to play? What are we expecting? And honestly, in the near future, Pat is our guy that goes out and networks. So we have some great Colts organization members that we might have. Not gonna say just who until they confirm, but just say
Andrew
that this
Luck.
guy doesn't. It'd be great. We got to talk to Zach Kiefer last year, and he broke down the Luck series, so that was amazing. So you never know. But no, Pat has been doing some work during this whole training camp. So we have some scheduled guests. We're just gonna make sure they confirm. But once we do, please tune in, because we love to bring that to our fan base. We're fans that just like to give back to the fans. So it's been awesome. It's an awesome ride.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, listen, we got some fun stuff coming up too that I can't give away. But also the great things. But overall, the Sick Podcast Network is killing it with all of our coverage, with all of our teams. And you guys have certainly been a huge part of that. So I want to thank you for joining me here again tonight. Good luck to the Indianapolis Colts this season, despite how many wins I thought you were going to have. I think you guys look pretty good tonight. And so I hope you enjoyed I hope you enjoyed everything. And that's all I got. Absolutely. So we'll see you guys later. Thanks for the great work this week. And I will bid you a fond adieu. Gentlemen, there they go. The great Pat and Clyde doing an excellent job for us. Really appreciate them coming on. And again, for anybody who's here looking, I understand. We could have had a little bit more Bears talk, but I think that what we saw, I really liked what we saw. I want to just touch on this just for a moment before we let you go. Roschon Johnson, to me, really impressed me. And I know that Jared Payton was tweeting about this as well. I really loved what we saw out of him, his cutback ability, his ability to move piles. I think Kyle Brandt is going to be featuring him on angry runs at some point in the future. So have this be a little bit of a tip for those of you in fantasy drafts. And by the way, should I plug Underdog Fantasy? Because Underdog Fantasy is the easiest way to play fantasy football. You can go to underdogfantasy.com. Download the app. Oh, there it is. Sorry, Sammy. I know I was catching you off guard. I don't know if we needed to do that, but I'll just let everybody know. We're in the middle of fantasy draft season, and if you want to get started in fantasy football, we're going to be doing a couple of leagues here with the Sick Podcast Network. You can go to underdogfantasy.com, download the app, And if you're a new subscriber or user or whatever they call it, use the promo code SICK, and your first deposit will be matched up to $100 just to help you get aboard. And again, going back to Roshan Johnson, though, if you draft Khalil Herbert, and that is your guy, and at the beginning of the season, I think Khalil Herbert's going to be the guy who runs with the football. Roshan Johnson is going to be your man, but we'll be talking about that more Tuesday evening. Want to thank Pat and Clyde for joining us tonight. As always, Anello and Sammy for putting this all together. So appreciate you joining us here on a Saturday evening as we bleed into Sunday morning for some of you. In any event, bear down, and we'll see you Tuesday. Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. It's gonna be sick.